The circle of life is a lot more literal in the world of comics. Heroes are born, they live, they die, and then hello again, sorry I was asleep for a bit. Is Lost still on the telly? Ever since Superman revealed that Doomsday only beat him into a special bollocks Kryptonian healing coma, the floodgates have been open for dead superheroes to reappear. We've had so many magical resurrections and complex plots involving faking someone's death that it's now a well-worn joke that the afterlife in both the DC and Marvel universes are just revolving doors. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 most ridiculous ways superheroes have come back from the dead. Number 10, Nightcrawler. How he teleported out of heaven. The kind and friendly Nightcrawler is often considered the heart of the X-Men. Unfortunately, that also put a f***ing target on his back for writers to smash that heart out for maximum impact. After being robo-punched to death while saving Hope Summers, Nightcrawler hung around in heaven for a few years. However, despite it being a complete affirmation of his Christian beliefs, he was forced to leave when his father Azazel, who's a red, pointy-eared lord of hell, led an army of demon pirates to take over heaven. F***ing silly comics. Nightcrawler ultimately stopped Azazel himself by teleporting them both to Earth, and that was pretty much that. Kurt Wagner decided to leave heaven and just stop being dead, I guess. Number 9, The Punisher. How he became a Frankenstein. Well, actually, that's a Franken Castle because his name is Frank Castle, and that's not my bad joke. That's actually what they changed the name of his comic to. F***ing Franken Castle. So Wolverine's got a son called Daken, who's a prick. Daken fought the Punisher, and to cement his prick status, chopped him up like a deli chef. Frank's remains wound up in a sewer where they were found by the Legion of Monsters, who rebuilt the Punisher, but he was not better, not stronger, and definitely not faster than before. Considering that the Punisher's always been a gritty, no-frills badass, becoming an actual Frankenstein is f***ing weird, but actually a fun, cheesy B-movie storyline. The angle ended in a similarly ridiculous fashion when the Punisher was restored to his normal body by a magical gem called the Bloodstone. Why not? Number 8, Alfred Pennyworth. How? By becoming a weird rock thing. So the Outsider is not remembered as being one of Batman's greatest villains. See, at one point the writers of Batman decided to get rid of Alfred Pennyworth, God knows why, and had him sacrifice himself to save Batman and Robin. Unfortunately, this was back in the 60s when everything was a bit goofy, so he died by throwing himself in front of a boulder. That's smart. However, despite plonking him in a fridge coffin, the world's greatest detective didn't actually bother to check if his butler was actually dead. Alfred was still alive, but unconscious. He was then dug up by a scientist to use a regeneration ray on him, which backfired, turning him into the Outsider, a villain determined to destroy Batman with his twin powers of telekinesis and eczema. Batman eventually saved Alfred by pushing him back into the regeneration ray, which returned him to normal, which is, nonsense. Number 7, Nick Fury. How? Robot double. Since they were introduced, life model decoys have become one of the laziest cop-outs in the history of comics. LMDs are highly advanced shield robots designed to look just like a real person and give lazy writers an out. The most infamous example of this is easily Nick Fury. Countless times now he's been killed only for the body to turn out to be an LMD. It got particularly absurd during the 90s as part of a crossover between the Punisher, Daredevil and Ghost Rider. Frank Castle was tricked into thinking that Nick Fury killed his family. Punisher went on a vendetta against Fury, blowing up a warehouse full of all the LMDs to ensure that if Nick Fury died, he would be definitely, for sure, really, actually, definitely dead this time. Then Punisher shot Nick in the back and killed him. At his funeral, heroes like Wolverine and Black Widow showed up to confirm that yes, that was the real Nick Fury, and yes, he was 100% actually dead. Then Sharon Carter exhumed the body, and it turned out to just be a really special life model decoy. F*** off. Number 6, Green Arrow. How? Grown from a blood drop, like a little shrub. A little shrub with a fantastic beard. Oliver Queen died blowing up a bomb before it could blow up Metropolis. It was a sacrifice that was as noble as it was completely pointless, and Superman was right there and could easily have done it without dying. A few years later, Ollie mysteriously reappeared. Green Arrow had somehow been resurrected and was found by the Justice League roaming the streets of Star City as a vigilante hobo. Green Lantern's ghost then appeared to explain the situation, which is handy. Hal's ghost revealed that he had used special reality warping powers to bring Oliver back to life. He did this by regrowing Green Arrow from a tiny bit of blood that had got on Superman's costume. First of all, wash your costume once in a while, Superman, and second of all, Number 5, Jean Grey. How? A f***ing cocoon. The Dark Phoenix saga is a classic X-Men story. It began when Jean Grey seemingly sacrificed herself to land a space shuttle the team were on. However, Jean was saved at the last minute by a cosmic entity called the Phoenix, who gave her phenomenal cosmic powers. Unfortunately, Jean was driven cuckoo by her powers, murked an entire planet, and she was killed via laser. That all turned out to be a lie, though, when the real Jean Grey was found in a cocoon on the ocean floor. In a transparent retcon, it was revealed that the Phoenix had placed Jean in suspended animation to heal from the massive dose of radiation she got hit by while landing the shuttle. The Phoenix then made a clone body for itself and took Jean's place. The real Jean Grey then returned and then died later anyway. Number 4, Jason Todd. How? Reality punch. Jason Todd's death and resurrection are both iconic moments, but for very different reasons. Jason was the second Robin and was famously killed by the Joker after readers voted to get rid of him because, to be fair, he was a little shitbag. For decades, he was thought to be one of the few characters who would never be brought back, until of course he was. Back in the 80s, DC made Crisis on Infinite Earths, a story that merged all their alternate continuities into a single world. A few alternate universe characters survived by being thrown into a pocket dimension. This included a teenage version of Clark Kent known as Superboy Prime, who is a dick. In one of the most aggressively dumb moments in comics, Superboy lashed out and was somehow able to punch reality itself. He punched it so hard that it broke and brought Jason Todd back to life as the Red Hood with a punch. Number 3, Aunt May. How? Replaced by an actress. Heroes die all the time, but somehow Aunt May, who spent the last 60 years looking like she's one rough winter away from oblivion, has survived. Well, I mean, she did die, but then she came back. May told Peter that Ben would be proud of him before passing away in her sleep. It was a perfect end for the character, so of course Marvel had to ruin it, whoopsie! It was revealed that May's death had been part of a really stupid plan by the Green Goblin. He had hired an actress and over the course of months altered her to look, sound and act like Aunt May. And then the actress died, which was also part of the plan, I guess, to mess with Spider-Man? Maybe I hate comics. Number 2, Batman. How? Battling through time. No, I don't. I love comics. Trust Batman's return to the world of the living to be the most kick-ass. I love you, Batman. After Darkseid nearly destroyed Earth during Final Crisis, Batman used a space gun and shot the god with a special interdimensional bullet. Dumb that. However, before he died, Darkseid hit Batman with his Omega beams. When Superman arrived on the scene, he found the Dark Knight's charred corpse. However, that was a clone, and the real deal had been sent back in time by the Omega beams. Batman then spent a whole series jumping forward through time, fighting crime as a caveman, a pirate, and a cowboy before eventually returning to the present day, fists bloodied with history. And number 1, Spider-Man. How? Giving birth to himself. What? When the first Spider-Man movie came out, it made shooting webs an organic function of Peter's body, not a special device on his wrist like in the comics. Marvel decided to implement that into the comics in the weirdest f***ing way possible. The Spectacular Spider-Man issue number 15 introduced a new bug-themed villain called the Queen, who kissed Peter, which altered his DNA. Later that night, he transformed into an actual Spider-Man. He was also pregnant. Ha ha ha! Spider didn't last long before it had a seizure and then died. Devastated, the Queen just ran off and left the giant spider corpse in the middle of her base. Then a human hand burst out of its stomach and a completely human and naked Peter Parker crawled out. To summarize, Spider-Man was turned into a giant spider who was pregnant with a fully grown human version of himself, and then when he was born, he sort of became himself, and all of this happened so that Peter could now just, shoot webs like he does in the movies. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.